help them. In the studio is now Joel Valenzuela. Joel, welcome today. It's not the first time that you are with us, or did you invite us last time? You have been on our show also, or not?
Yes, I think it was the same as last time. This is becoming a yearly
Yeah.
Yeah,
tradition
yeah. It
for
was
me.
also with the birthday. Great. Well, Joel, we are 1 year down the road. How is life?
Life is
Oh,
great.
wait, sorry.
It keeps getting
Maybe I
better
should
all the
maybe I
time.
should do a small introduction. Joel Valenzuela is connected, but connected is a spokesperson for Dash. You stream also,
Mhm.
Joel,
Yes, I have my own
his own
channel.
channel. Please prop it.
Yeah, follow him. He has good
Please put the
interviews.
channel in the.
Thank you.
I like to watch
What's
often.
your
Yeah.
channel, Joel?
It's called Digital Cash Network.
On Twitch?
Mhm. YouTube.
No, Twitch is the one thing I don't do. YouTube, Odyssey, which is the library-based thing.
Oh yeah.
Also, Instagram, I put TikToks up all over the place, but
Okay.
basically everything except Twitch.
Okay. Well, then this is a great way to show your channel to everybody on Twitch, right? Great
hmm
marketing. One more time, the name of the channel.
Digital Cash
Digital
Network.
Cash Network. Make sure to follow it.
Yeah.
It has a nice content. So, Joel, welcome once again. 1 year down the road. How is life?
hmm Life is pretty fantastic as every year we go further into the adoption of crypto is always like a better year because I'm sure plenty of us remember what it was like way in the early days when it was just a very small side hobby and now it's controlling a bigger and bigger part of the world and now it's just I mean that can only be good I think and especially what are we 13 years into this thing. Not all of us have been around since the beginning. I definitely have not since the very beginning, but it's crazy to see this thing grow. It's like a lot of us, radicals have these sort of radical ideas and we just dream of like what the world would be like if one day just a few people embrace these ideas. And now with the radically free open economy that the crypto universe delivers, we're starting to see that actually become a reality in a very short period of time. It's really exciting.
And do you see a connection between the success of crypto money and the failure of
hmm
governments worldwide?
Yes, but the connection, the failure isn't so much of a decline as it is a stagnation, in my view. That it's kind of the governmental systems are basically holding people back, and the problem is with the internet age in general, but especially with the crypto age, people are seeing that they can progress so much faster and I think they're starting to get tired of waiting around. It's not so much. I mean, I wish it was more of a government's collapsing fast and everything else is doing better, but it's more of government is just staying the same and holding people back, and they're just starting to break out because they want to go faster and farther.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting take on it,
Yeah.
also.
You lived also how long now? I think longer than Yoshi. Yeah, for on crypto alone, or was it the other way
Yeah,
around? Like
5 or 6 years, depending on how you want
oh,
to.
then Yoshi was longer.
Yeah, I lost my
Nice.
bank
So you
account in
live
2014 after I told the bank about
uh,
Bitcoin,
Ooh,
and I don't live.
I
and
was
Yoshi.
2000. I was
Okay.
2016 when I lost the
Yeah.
bank, but
Yeah.
at the end of 2015, I stopped accepting fiat payments. So close, but you got me beat
Well,
there.
I'm still using fiat, of course, because yeah, well,
hmm
it's difficult. It's impossible to go
Supermarket.
without. No, not just supermarket, but
hmm
just taxes. I also pay
Okay.
taxes in Serbia.
hmm
Um, but I try to reduce it. I use a lot of gold instead of fiat,
hmm
which is also, I live in a small farmer village. I cannot use Bitcoin where I live today, but gold is accepted in six jewelries, and I can change it to local government debt. And yeah, works good for me. Works good
Interesting.
for me.
Uh, but yeah, we decided to do an ask you anything. um, so if the people in the chat have questions about just name it NFTs, Lightning Network, what is the fastest coin?
Well, I have a Lightning
Uh,
Network question because I refuse to
yeah, well,
work with the
start,
Lightning
yes.
Network as I see it as a step backwards. We are using crypto to get rid of a third party, and I see the Lightning Network as the implementation of a third party. I've heard you worked with the Lightning Network, so instead of me spreading my emotions, maybe you could give us some facts.
Yes, well, it's one of those situations it's been reduced to a black or white narrative a lot where people love it or hate it. They think it does everything and is perfect, or they think it's literally central banking 2.0. And it's, as with most things, the truth is a little more nuanced, but basically it's a system by which you can use Bitcoin still in a relatively peer-to-peer kind of a way, but it's very complicated. It's very difficult to use it in that way. The easier ways to use it are in a less and less peer-to-peer kind of a way. And so it's not that you can't use it as like peer-to-peer. It's just that every I guess every impulse will make you use it through the more centralized systems you can. And so, for example, if you want to do it a peer-to-peer way, you need to run your own node on like a computer, Raspberry Pi, 24/7, have it on, always on, and you need to any amount of money you want to receive. You can't receive money until someone else opens a channel to you, which means someone else has to lock up money pointing at you in order to do that. And in order to send out, it has to be the same thing with you. And so it's difficult to connect. You have to basically make sure you have a connection with someone else, and then if you want to send to someone else, you have to make sure there's a path along the ways, and that the liquidity has to be all the way there. So what people don't necessarily realize is the higher the amount you want to send, the lower your options become, because let's just say I want to send $50 to someone and I have $50 capacity through this way, and then they have only $40 capacity to the next person and they have 30, then 30 is the most I could send. But what if I send 20 and then now I only have 10 capacity because it gets used up and you have to rebalance it and stuff. And so for an individual, I guess it's fun to do as a hobby, but it's not very effective really. Basically, the ways you could use it in which it's easier to use are through some sort of what they call LSPs or Lightning Service Providers that take care of a lot of this stuff for you. And right now, there are mobile wallets available that let you control your keys, as in they can't run off with your money, but they're still very reliant on a single infrastructure in order to use. Like, for example, if you have a mobile, like let's say you use like a bitcoin.com wallet or something like that, and you have your private keys and you don't want to use that wallet anymore. So use a different one. You just put the private keys in and then that's it. You just put the recovery phrase in a different phone and that's it. With the Lightning, when you do that, it would close all the channels you have. It would cost money to do that. And then you wouldn't really be able to transact that well in the new wallet because it's kind of all the sending capacity is tied in with this one node, this one service provider. And so it's a lot harder to move that over. And the big thing is I like when you talk about does it do what it's advertised to do? Well, yes, basically, but practically I could see it moving towards fewer and fewer providers, large providers basically handling most of the traffic. And also what people don't really realize is it's going to become relatively expensive. Not as expensive as on chain, but right now it's routinely 3 or 4 cents to send a Lightning transaction, and I can easily see that number going up.
Why is that? Because in the end, it's a closed system of that Lightning node, right? So
Well, the reason is one of the scaling limitations of Lightning Network is very different from other networks. With other networks, the scaling limitation is just how much capacity a node can, put out. Like, what is it, bandwidth? What is it, hardware specifications, or just, technical scaling, like how well engineered it is. But with the Lightning Network, it's based on money. So, for example, if you run a Lightning service provider and you want to service 1 million customers and only allow them to receive $10 worth of Bitcoin each, only $10, you have to have $10 million worth of Bitcoin in your business just to provide that service to your customers. And as anyone who knows economics knows, that's a lot of opportunity cost. And now, of course, if you like, if you go to the Thorchain decentralized exchange, you can provide liquidity for Bitcoin for, I think, 11% APY. So you're making 11% just by doing that. So in order for anyone to want to run a Lightning business, it has to make so much more than that in order to work. So then I haven't done the math on that yet, but I'm sure that the fees are going to start being a lot higher just to allow people to transact, because you need a large amount of Bitcoin, of capital there,
So
in order
fee
to
in the
make things
Lightning
work.
network is then solely there to incentivize people to provide liquidity to the network. It's not actually the cost of a transaction, but it's the
Yes,
incentive
basically.
for liquidity providers.
Yes, it's both, I guess, but it's very cheap to send a transaction. Uh, I guess it's very inexpensive to route someone's transaction as long as you just have the node running. It's just that in order to route any kind of value, it becomes more expensive. So the bigger the payments, the more money goes through it, the more money you have to have locked in. Whereas with let's just say the on-chain Bitcoin network, say it does 400,000 transactions a day. If those transactions start conveying larger and larger amounts of value, it doesn't change the scaling equation
Mhm.
at all. It's just the raw numbers. Whereas Lightning scales much better for numbers, but much less for actual financial capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask about the settlement within that Lightning network. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
you have to wait until some other channel is closing to get the settlement done. Is that correct? So if you open a
Mm-hmm.
channel for 10 years, it could take you 10 years
Mm-hmm.
before your $10 is settled. Is that the correct way of looking at it, or is there a moment in between where things are done?
Well, in between, uh, a lot of times what happens are they have rebalancing transactions, and so it basically is an update of everything. And so, like, let's say I have $10 in a channel with you, and we transact back and forth, and at some point there's not enough, we do more business, then I send another transaction that basically increases that to like
Yeah.
$25 or something. And then over the years, there's a new one that updates. It's an on chain transaction that updates our capacity every once in a while. And so there are periodic updates. Those do obviously cost more money because they trigger an on chain transaction, but it's pretty typical that that kind of happens over the years. But it's still also, it makes it so that the on-chain balances of Bitcoin don't mean as much as they used to, because now it's just like, well, this party has this much, this party has this much, and now it's just, well, you don't know who has how much. You just know who's connected, kind of connected to who, and the actual, you know, for example, if everyone closed their Lightning channel at the same time in like 10 years, you'd find a radically different makeup of ownership. Like the funds could be extremely centralized by then. They could be extremely decentralized by then.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh, now I forgot it. I thought of something that I wanted to say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let me ask a different question. Um, I have always said that all the altcoins are the Lightning network that connect to the Bitcoin network. Um, would you
Mm-hmm.
say Lightning networks works well enough for it to ever go mainstream, to ever really be able to scale to a global setting, or is it the dream of some small group of developers and is the rest of the world doing something else?
I think it can. The problem is, I believe it's a little more complicated and inefficient of a way of doing that, so that other solutions will probably be more popular and go ahead. Uh, because it's not that inconvenient to use. I would suppose if you're doing it through a large centralized provider. Again, it's not that much of an issue, and it just, if people already use payment apps today, they already have sign up fees, they already have like account limits and stuff like that with their fiat world. And if people kind of get used to that with Bitcoin, just sending back and forth like that,
Yeah,
it could work like that. The problem is, we're, as I said, about like the impatience of people in human progress and not wanting to be restrained. There are so many solutions that work so much better and don't have those things. And I think eventually it's just going to be that people start transacting in other things a lot more.
Another issue that I have with the entire Lightning network is the risk that I see in the regulation side of things, the KYC stuff. So you are running your Lightning node, and $10 is nice, but let's say you want to have 50,000 liquidity bridge and at any time. Then what I see happening is that all these Lightning network nodes, or what is the right word for that? All these bridges,
Nodes?
yeah, all the nodes,
Yeah, all the
all the
nodes.
Lightning nodes. Even everybody running that Lightning node, letting your $50,000 pass, is going to be required by law to ask you for your identity. And then how is that going to end? I mean, I don't, that is my biggest issue with it. You are creating this central point of failure where governments can, in theory, locate one player that breaks the entire chain.
Well, it's funny. Recently, I saw someone on Twitter was in some, because everyone goes on Twitter to fight, and someone on Twitter was fighting with someone else. They were arguing over like vaccines and
It's
stuff,
not a
which is of course the
vaccine.
great
It's
thing
not
that
a
everyone's arguing
vaccine.
about these days.
Sorry,
Yes,
sorry,
gene
sorry.
therapy. Yes, I know, but so they were arguing about that, and someone said he didn't like his view, so he closed his Lightning
Wow.
channel to that person. He just like cut his note off because they disagreed on that. And I'm like, oh, there you go. Well, we have to face something about crypto, right? Crypto has flourished today largely because the government has done very little. And at some point, every single network out there has some sort of a censorship risk because of government regulation. The difference is, if, let's just say, you have your on-chain Bitcoin nodes and miners or whatever, if they all get banned in a certain country, as has happened before, you could open them in different ways, and then the experience for the end user is largely the same. As long as you connect to some nodes somewhere around the world, you can make a transaction work. The additional challenge, I should say, with Lightning is, if some of the bigger hubs that you're used to being connected to start implementing KYC and you don't want to use them, then your transaction experience by just using all the smaller nodes in other jurisdictions or whatever else, it becomes a lot worse. And all of a sudden you have like routing failures, and you can send smaller amounts, and it's just much more expensive to rebuild infrastructure somewhere else. So it's not that it's a unique problem to Lightning, it's just that it's more of a problem for Lightning.
Well, I admire you for trying it out, because I am so lazy in a way that, I read about it and then I think, it sucks. I will use a altcoin instead. So great
But
job.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Johan, yes.
yeah, you tried it, eh? So you stopped with the Lightning network. Why was it?
So I tried it for an experiment to run it. I was leaving my spare computer on all the time, and I wasn't really using it that much because the places I could use it, first off, it was just much more easy to use the mobile apps that use someone else's infrastructure. There was fewer routing failures, fewer things. It just was more easy to use that. But also, just using Lightning in general doesn't have much of a use for me, because almost every place that accepts Lightning accepts a bunch of other coins, or there's a bunch of other things that don't accept Lightning because it's structurally easy. And so it didn't really enable me, because as someone who's already living on crypto, it didn't really enable me to do anything new. But the big thing was I learned about Thorchain, the native cross-chain decentralized exchange, and that they let anyone provide liquidity, and I could earn like 11 or 12% on the Bitcoin that I had in my Lightning node. So economics just played out. As the example I gave, that's literally what I did. I said I could take this like small amount of Bitcoin I have that I'm just have in the node just so I can use it. I can just take that out and put it on Thorchain, actually get money from it, and actually get paid. And so I decided to do that instead.
And the other thing I want to ask, El Salvador. They say this Bitcoin is a payment system there, but that's also that's just a big Lightning network, isn't it?
Oh, if only.
Or is it even worse?
There's only so much I could completely say, because there's a lot of stuff I've seen and I have to double and triple check facts and things. But I would encourage you to follow my friend Mark Falzon. And
saw some of his videos.
He's done some interesting digging into it. Essentially, most of the infrastructure is run through this thing called the Chivo Wallet, or the Chivo system, and that can receive and send out Bitcoin either on chain or via Lightning Network, but the internal accounting is neither. And a lot of people have been missing funds and things like that, and it's a little sketchy. It's a completely centralized bank-like system. Now, there's a rumor, and I won't say too much more because I have to double check all the facts, but that it's actually running on a completely different blockchain that's not Bitcoin. The back end is. And there are some documents out there. I have to look them, make sure before I, figure that out. But I'm going to put a video on my channel at some point when that happens. But basically, very little of it runs on Lightning. And as far as I know, the major retailers in the country accept it, but not the smaller ones. And it's a great, I guess, tourist attraction for, people who want to come and move their crypto businesses to the country, people who want to bring investment money into the country. That's kind of what it amounts to. I don't think the average people are going to be using it very often.
I've seen the videos of Mark Velsen. That's I can recommend it, his channel. But he went there and he tried to pay with Bitcoin, and there are some people who accepted it, but then I saw a lot of those retailers. They had you had to use this wallet. This government wallet or whatever.
I was in the understanding that it was one big Lightning network, and that you could only access their Lightning channel if you would provide your identity first, and then you could have some Bitcoins in that country. But now
it's more simple. It's just, if you have a El Salvador ID, you can get the official government run app, which is just like a bank. It's not Lightning. The Lightning is what goes in and out of it sometimes. So they run a Lightning node, I'm sure, but they don't actually use that for their infrastructure or their back end for payments.
Interesting info, Joel. All right, let's go a little bit into the future. What do you think is going to happen to crypto in 2022? Are we going to hit the 200 million billions?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm getting feelings like we're towards the top of the market, but I'm the last person you should trust on this kind of stuff. I'm terrible at market predictions, and that's why I don't do them often. I think that probably
maybe not so much about I ask you about the price. Shouldn't have done that. Maybe more a little bit on the development of the infrastructure. If people are going to accept it more easily now that it's so obvious their government is working against their favor, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that the the next bull cycle, let's just say, or next 4 years, will be when you start to see wide adoption of cryptocurrencies finally. I think we're getting very close because a large chunk of the developed world seems to own or have some kind of exposure to cryptocurrencies. And that's now they're starting to look for ways of spending it. And then you have a few large retailers, for example, in the US that say, oh, we re-accept it because people have been telling us to. And pretty soon people will figure out that those solutions are not going to work at all. But then at least that gets the conversation started. And within the next 4 years, I think you'll see actual payment gateways for cryptocurrencies be actually developed because the ones currently are really bad. I don't know if you've ever gone into a physical shop and paid with good cryptocurrency, and whatever app they use, it's awful. It doesn't work. It's terrible. Like no one would deal with this. The infrastructure for exchanges is good. The infrastructure for DeFi is good. The infrastructure for so many things is good. But no, it's clear that no one's paying for things with this because otherwise you'd see better merchant apps being developed. And so I can imagine in the next few years, better merchant apps being developed. I could also see a lot of people. So one thing that's interesting is for the first time ever in recent weeks, the Google search terms for NFTs have surpassed those for crypto. And so NFTs are something that everyone can understand, I think, easier than they can understand crypto. The thing is, they are still based on crypto. And I think you're going to see a lot of creativity from, for example, younger people creating NFTs and making a lot of money on it. But then the money, where does that go? And that's what's probably going to get people to start thinking of how do I turn this into digital money that I can spend, and then how do I? That's a maybe a that I'm not sure if that's a prediction of mine, but that's a suspicion of mine. Let's say.
All right.
I have to say, I use the Bitcoin.com wallet, and that's
Mhm.
easy to pay with. It's just like my bank app.
No, it's about the
Yes,
receiving
there's a
end, he said.
couple. Yes,
Oh,
the
there's
merchant
the
app.
merchant. Yeah,
But
yeah. I never
even
tried
then,
that.
I could give some complaints about even the Bitcoin.com wallet, which is a pretty good wallet. Just the amount of steps it takes to get to the where you need to actually do a payment. And because I've seen people, dozens of people, use this app to pay at a retail location, and it slows down the line a little bit. And like it's a little like we're getting there. It's good enough for now. But if anyone wants to accept crypto payments, I would recommend they use the AnyPay point of sale app. And that's the only one that works well right now, as far as I know. It's the only one that's easy to set up and actually moves fast when you have customers going through the line all paying.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have been to Arnhem Bitcoin Town in 2014 already. They had a payment app for the merchants. The merchant could in their dashboard set a percentage, how much of the Bitcoin they wanted to receive in fiat on their bank account and how much Bitcoin they wanted to keep as a kind of savings or speculation. But it was always a problem, and most of it because the people handling these apps simply were not educated on it, and they didn't know what they were doing, and the problems. And so I know what you mean. It's still very far from being user friendly. Let's say it like that.
Yes, for
So
sure.
yeah, it's really it still takes people with what's the right word? A certain motivation, a certain idealistic aspect to work with this crypto. It's not more convenient yet than your average fiat payment or government debt, I should say.
Yes, it can be, and it's getting really close though in some ways. Um, there's there's an app that I'm a very big fan of called Dash Direct that works with the Dash network, and it basically allows you to spend crypto at a few 100,000 locations in the US and sometimes save up to 5 to 10% doing that. And there's been a lot of different systems in the past that use a similar sort of gift code setup thing to do this, except none of them have a fast user experience. And this is the first one that I've used over the years where it's actually fast. So like I can go to a fast food restaurant or something here, order my thing, they tell me the total, and I pay with Dash right there, and I don't hold up the line. I don't make people wait, and I save like 3, 4, or 5%. And that's the first thing I've seen with actual people who don't know or care about crypto are actually starting to use it and get excited about it. And the thing I'm very interested in is they're in the next couple of weeks, I believe, or so, I can't be sure the exact time, but releasing a version of that which could also adapt to any merchant point of sale system, not just very specific merchants, and also based without KYC and without giving custody of your funds either. And so that should be probably a crypto first, where you can spend your crypto everywhere without giving your ID or without giving up control of your crypto. And once it's released, I'll be loud all over the internet. I won't shut up about it.
Tell us again as a little scoop.
What
is the name of the app?
It's Dash Direct.
But of course, Dash the coin.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yes.
How's the adoption of Dash doing, by the way?
It's doing well. The thing is, the crypto world is going in such a different direction from merchant adoption right now. And, markers on a map don't seem to matter much to the market, but it's still, according to, as far as I've seen a few months ago, the largest point of sale provider in Venezuela still says Dash is either the top or the second most used after Bitcoin in their point of sales for like buying groceries and things like that at most of the merchants they provide. And I mean, here in New Hampshire, it's probably still the most used for retail transactions around here. It's the thing is, as I'm sure everyone in the crypto adoption world in general, whether it's Lightning, whether it's Bitcoin Cash, whether it's Dash, realizes is it's difficult to get merchants to accept it, but it's much more difficult to drive a significant amount of traffic through to actually give payments. To spend it. Yes, and it's that most people just don't have it, and so why would they buy something just to spend it? And so the reason it worked for someone like me is because I just made the decision that I was not going to have anything that wasn't crypto. And so then if all my income is through something else, that's what I'm going to be able to spend. Now, I think that's a big leap for a lot of people, but I think it's getting more and more easy these days, especially as, I mean, I hate to say anything good about Bitcoin maximalists, but at least there have been some high profile people trying to make it cool for people to like receive part of their salary in crypto, or to like basically, they're very big on like posturing about that. And even if so, the people who don't necessarily share all their same views still see that and say, I want to be cool. I want to like not have fiat, or they have that in their mind. And then once you have it, how do I spend it? Yeah. And then that's the way it goes. And that's probably the way I think a lot of people with adoption went first to, let's get 1 million merchants to take it, then everyone will want to spend it. And I think in the future, what will happen is everyone will have it first, and then they will seek how to spend what they already have.
I got one more Dash question, because 2021 was a year where Dash was bashed a little bit, or not bashed, but hunted by exchanges.
Just this year? How about every
No. Bashing is not the right word, but I meant to say that the specific thing I wanted to mention was the delisting of Bittrex and then the relisting on it. What was that all about?
Yes.
Because Monero is still not back.
Well,
right? Yeah, Monero.
So
they left out.
It's kind of a very silly issue, because it goes to basically around the world, regulators have heard this term, an anonymity coin or a privacy coin or something, and said, oh, this is no good. It's for criminals. We must try to pressure people into banning it. And from my understanding, most of the delistings of any of these coins around the world have come not by government mandate, but by exchanges and financial providers being afraid of a government mandate and then doing it without being actively threatened. And the only reason, so the way Dash works on its privacy function is it's basically an advanced integrated coin join. And so CoinJoin has been around and available to use on Bitcoin, like the mixing, forever. Although in very sometimes centralized and rudimentary ways, sometimes better. More recently, on like Bitcoin Cash, you've had Cash Shuffle and Cash Fusion and things that work very similarly. And basically, in fact, some of the Dash developers took the Dash infrastructure and did a mixed Bitcoin transactions, and it looked absolutely identical on chain to a Dash transaction. So basically, if you want to go to that level, you could call Dash the same amount of a privacy coin as Bitcoin, right? Because of the way it works, it should not be treated differently. And basically, the only reason there's been that kind of a challenge has been because people have read articles that say privacy coins such as Dash and Monero and Zcash, and they're like, oh, that's bad, let's get rid of it. It's been like a very low level of education. So wherever people have managed to talk to regulators, or not even regulators, but talk to exchanges, then they're like, oh, okay, never mind, and they had it back. The problem is just getting their attention. And the reason why, and you've seen Zcash sometimes be added back as well, and that's not because Zcash doesn't have advanced privacy, but it is because there's ways in which you can use it to where you can be sure that you can basically get whatever information you want to from like a KYC exchange. And so they've engaged more. Whereas I think the Monero community, first off, from my understanding, Monero is more difficult to use in a transparent way. It's not as easy to just sort of turn off the privacy, right? But also the community has been very strong in branding as like, this is like the criminal coin. You can do whatever. It's none of your business. And like, that hasn't really helped. But I think I think we're also coming towards the end of the age of centralized exchanges, where almost everything's going to move to DeFi, where this sort of thing doesn't matter near as much. So it could be a sign of the times, but not a sign of the future.
Do you think overall it hurt or it helped Dash? Did you get some more attention, or well, you did get more attention, but was it a good or a bad thing?
It's hard to tell. I think the relisting was probably a good thing because you just say like, oh, look, and then you see another, because a lot of these business decisions are low information, unfortunately. And so people just say, oh, that's bad. But then they see there was I can't remember all of them, but there was a few different coins that had a few different exchanges that relisted Dash later. And so I guess the more of that happens, the less likely it is that people will ban it because they'll just say, well, Bittrex re-added it, and this other one did, so safely, you know.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, somebody's asking in the chat where are you located. I think you already said it. Free State Project.
The Free State of New Hampshire. Yes.
Or what city maybe? Maybe that's what. Or do you want to keep it secret?
Well, you'll have to come. I don't tell too accurately, and also there's a possibility I might be moving soon, which would be close, but who knows? So it might be inaccurate.
Just tuned in. Yeah. Oh, and somebody else asking how does Joel feel about Pulse chain?
So my feelings on this matter are based on little information. I've not done a lot of research. It comes more with the preliminary things I've heard on Hex. And I mean, so there's so many Ethereum competitors, and I have not, from my understanding, heard anything compelling that makes Pulse different other than it comes from, Richard Hart's project and things. A lot of people I know have made a lot of money on Hex. I don't trust it really, since it seems to be very centrally controlled, and purposeless relatively, so I haven't really gone into it too much. And so I don't know. Pulse chain, I'll watch. I'll see. I'll look at the technical audits and things like that once it's released and see if it has any merit. As of now, as long as it's a Richard Hart project, I'm not particularly interested in it.
He's saying, even kijken, Pulse is Ethereum on steroids. The Ethereum chain as is
Yeah, what isn't Ethereum on steroids these days?
Yeah.
Sign of the times.
Now another question. Other question. Can you say that Ledger is the safest way to save your crypto?
Probably a hardware wallet of some kind is the best way, I think, at least for a non-technical person. Some people have said that there's just do it yourself, do your own air-gapped machine with all this kind of stuff, but I'm not technical enough to be able to do that confidently to where I'm sure it's actually secure. So for most people, a hardware wallet's the best way. Just be careful where you get it from. And oddly enough, with Ledger, which is something I'm a big fan of Ledger, but they did have a database hack where a couple years ago, I think, where someone got access to all the mailing addresses and everything of all their customers. And so then even if the hardware wallet's okay, now a lot of people know that they knew where everyone lives who has an interest in securing a significant amount of crypto, which is terrible. And so I don't know if their practices have changed, but maybe it would be better to find a certified reseller, not just some random guy off the internet, but like a certified reseller to make sure you don't have that problem. But or just have a mailing address that has nothing to do with like your real name or your location, which is always more difficult, but whatever.
Somebody asked, how about what's this word? Railgun. Oh, okay. Yeah, railgun.
So I don't know much. I know basically zero about Railgun, except a friend of mine is involved in the project, which leads me to have positive views on Railgun. But that's as far as it is. I haven't actually done any research. I just know someone who's very smart and competent who's part of the team. So.
And yeah, my question for me, what do you think is the best Ethereum killer? Or do you think Ethereum will not be killed?
This is an interesting question because the thing is, I have to go into a little bit of like scaling things. So I think what we've had so many scaling fights. Is it like, how do you scale better than this? How do you do that? How do you do, and then is it L1 versus L2? Which one? There's a lot of arguments. And I think what you start to see emerging in the market is there's inherent, at some point, scaling is not infinite on its own, that there's trade-offs. You can scale infinitely with trade-offs. And so what a lot of, for example, you have something like, let's just say Solana, which scales very much on chain, but then there's a lot of trade-offs with that. And I think the L1 L2 model is probably going to be the way of the future. So Bitcoin basically abstracted away everyday payments and then everything else onto L2. And so, which is, Lightning in this case. And so in my view, they did it like they put too much that way. And then, for example, let's say, are you guys aware of SmartBCH?
Yeah.
I'm wearing the honk wig.
And so that's yes. And so that's another example where, where Bitcoin Cash is supposed to scale for some very small payments and stuff on chain, but for some data operations and stuff like that, they're still doing a second layer of sorts. There's still kind of that thing going on. Dash is coming out with some data contract platform, which has its own, Tendermint-based sidechain for just data operations. That's that. I could then of course there's Ethereum with L1 and then all the million different L2s going on there. It's pretty much it's a pretty consistent, kind of a thing. Or you could even say Ethereum's L1 and Binance Smart Chain is Ethereum's L2. It's however you say it, it seems to be the way things are going. And so the problem is there's this inherent battle between high throughput and I guess quality of financial transactions, because data transactions and financial transactions are not necessarily the same and don't necessarily need the same kinds of specifics. The problem that I always found with Ethereum is that it's basically trying to be in a certain way, a Bitcoin-like money chain where you put serious financial transactions on there in the middle of where every time anyone wants to put a new hat on their dog or whatever on their their NFT or whatever somewhere else, that all goes through the same place. And so just like on highways and roads, you have different lanes for different things. You have the bike lane over here, and then you have the fast lane, and sometimes you have the high occupancy vehicle lane on the other side, that if you have several people in the vehicle, you get to use that one. And basically, I think that any Ethereum killer, first off, I think Ethereum is going to be around for a long time because just about everything is being built on it. Not like the financial system of the future is kind of being built on it. But I do think its position is also precarious because it's not there yet. And the technology is going so fast, and there's so many different challengers. There's very few Bitcoin challengers as far as the old school sound money kind of the store of value Bitcoin, I should point out, not the other things. But there's a lot of Ethereum challengers. But basically, I would look for one that is well designed. I don't think that just something that does the same thing, but like a copy paste type thing. I don't think that Binance Smart Chain is the one that's going to win in the end. It's too much or I would say maybe Pulse, maybe things like that. I don't think that they're the ones that are going to win in the end, that just try to be well, we're Ethereum, but we scale today kind of thing. It's I think it has to be more advanced than that, offer more new things.
What do you think about the Cardano?
I don't think much about it at all. Okay. I've heard about it for is there much being done on it today?
Yeah.
I still can't wrap my head around. I still don't know if they've deployed smart contracts yet. I think I've heard they have.
We had a guest earlier today that said it was delayed. Right? The girl.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't even know.
I think they're already building this all the copying all these DeFi stuff on the Cardano chain. Yeah. This swap, all the swap things and.
Well, so what I would do, I would keep an eye on cryptofees.info, because it just says the total amount of fees being spent by all the networks, and including most of it is DeFi stuff, right? But it's interesting to just see what people are paying to use. Of course, there are some that are much cheaper that have a lot of usage, and the fees are relatively low. But ultimately, that's where a lot of the profitability because if you can make money running infrastructure on it, you will run infrastructure. If you can make money providing a product, you will provide a product and therefore get the customers. So it kind of makes sense. So it's a good thing to keep an eye on. Yeah. So that was a lot of words that basically don't answer your freaking question. But I do think that there will be a few different chains out there, especially because it's so easy now to relatively trustlessly bridge networks to where you could just move one thing over to another one.
Frommel is asking, Pulse actually takes the whole ETF chain as you have it now, including your NFTs, and take FKK tokens, and you get them copied over to your Pulse wallet. Win-win. And then he says, but already has staking instead of mining. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how it turns out. The same thing happened with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV and all those other ones where all the money you had on the Bitcoin chain, you now had on new ones. And well, I don't know. They've gone in their different. Their merits. I don't believe the Bitcoin forks have had any merit based on just being a fork. They've had more merits on what they did since the fork, right? Anything that they've done, they've built, they've innovated on since the split is what has given them value in my view. And probably the same thing would be for something like Pulse. It's like you just can't just copy Ethereum's homework and then just there you go. Like we'll see what happens after. Let's see if people keep building on it because you can't, what happens if people just keep on putting everything on Ethereum and not on Pulse, for example, then you have to catch up. Or what if everyone starts building awesome new things on only Pulse, but not on Ethereum? And then that'll be something to watch. So I think it's definitely too early to see,
Frommel asks also, I'm really curious how base, BAYC owners will do.
How's that spelled?
BAYC.
Yeah.
Frommel always likes to shill the most unknown projects in the chat. Don't worry if you haven't heard of it.
Yeah, it's all right. Yes. Well, can I tell you some of my most obscure bags so you can shill them as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was, by the way, the Borea Ape Yacht Club. Oh, it's with the ape stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something. Well, I've been wrapping my head around NFTs and their value. I have not had a lot of value personally from some of these, the more trendy NFT stuff. Kind of like the Ethereum CryptoKitties. Remember that? Like, I understand that that's a significant milestone in crypto history, but it's not something I've ever been interested in, really.
Me, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is like the ICOs of 2018, and we are waiting for the price of Ethereum to go up, and all the NFTs in Ethereum will go down, and that's how I see it.
Probably.
I'm waiting for the pets.com NFTs.
Yeah, I am waiting for
Well,
somebody to explain me how to create NFTs on the Bitcoin Cash Ethereum virtual machine. I got an entire NFT series, Yoshi NFT series waiting, but I cannot create them. And I'm not going to create them on Ethereum because it's an insane amount of money to, it's just a little to have a little bit of fun. But hopefully in a couple hours when Adolf Honkler is coming to the stream, I will get a little explanation on how to create my NFTs on Bitcoin Cash.
But I'd like to know about your obscure crypto experience. And in the meantime, I can tell you that Ozzy Osbourne is also launching his own NFTs. Yeah.
Yeah, so is Melania Trump is doing something on Solana, I think.
But she's probably paid to say that, right?
Maybe she just actually is, but like the thing is, it allows people to sell digital scarcity associated with themselves, and so if everyone wants a piece of Melania or whatever, there you go, you got a piece on Solana. So, I mean, the levels of people that are jumping in on this thing is pretty crazy. Like, it's not just so much of a celebrity cash grab anymore, although it is still a lot of a celebrity cash grab. There's a lot of other people doing a lot of other interesting things on it, and I don't know. I think it's like free NFT with every Happy Meal. That's like next year.
Well, they have to fix the fees though, because otherwise the Happy Meals will go up in price a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's funny because some famous toy manufacturer just did a partnership with the Wax blockchain, which is doing a lot of NFT. It's a NFT purposed system. So that'll be interesting to see how that turns out. The NFT world is very interesting, and I think it'll be very fun to see in the future when you have like NFT flipper services where they take your NFT off your shitty, terrible blockchain that no one uses anymore and like remints them on a new, like burns and on a new chain. Because I think a lot of people will be switching whatever chain there is. Like, the big ones, I'm sure the whales will always be doing stuff on Ethereum because that's where the attention's at. But they can afford it. I can't.
Yeah, but it's 5 o'clock and Briar is Brian already
Well, so the
waiting?
thing is this: I sent him the agenda last night at 2 o'clock when I went to sleep, and I sent him the wrong file. So it's my mistake.
Oh,
He
damn.
has not seen the time yet. I am trying to contact him.
I can't. Yeah, I contact on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm also on
way.
Twitter, but he hasn't seen it yet. Usually he looks
Okay,
quickly. And then we had Joe Martagana, who was trying to go in between. He also has not responded yet, so we can talk a little bit
So
more.
we can continue talking.
We can listen to these
Yeah.
obscure coins.
I'm still here.
Yeah, and we have the raffle, by
Yes.
the way.
Oh, shall we
and
do a
then you
little
can tell
raffle
us-
in between?
Yeah, and then you can talk about your obscure coins. I'm interested.
Yeah. Let me put up the screen.
Okay, the raffle, the last chance to type exclamation mark raffle is it's closing in 3.
Yeah, we have a
2,
15-second lag, Johan. So give him a little
1.
bit more.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Hoppa.
oh.
Yeah, pick a winner, and the winner is Soef.
Soef, second one.
Second time, I think.
Congratulations,
Yeah,
Soef. I will give I saw one follower. I will give the same prize to mevrouwtje Shawarma.
Okay.
Mevrouwtje Shawarma. With the message that mevrouwtje Shawarma, we are going to make Willem Engel friend of EFL this week, which will put EFL on minimum €10 each. Eh? It's my expectation. Okay, let's spin the wheel. Let's see what Soef and mevrouwtje Shawarma will win. Oh, by the way, the jackpot is 50 EFLs. We got a 2x multiplier. 2x multiplier times 1.9 makes 3.8. 3.8 EFLs. And for Soef, that means 4.8 total so far today. All right, that was. Did you start a new one already?
Yeah.
New raffle is
fast.
open.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Joel, talk about what's your most obscure coin.
How can it not be Honk, Joel? How can it not be Honk?
Something more obscure than EFL.
Well, if you want to go so obscure that I don't even know what they are, I have 1 million Bitcoin SLP tokens on my memo.cash balance somewhere. I don't know what to do with them.
A lot of them are
get
from
new
me.
ones all the time. Yeah, probably. So I don't know what to do with them. So if you want to buy random ones, I can send them over.
After the non-aggression principle token.
We also got our Telegram channel, t.me/claimslp, and we will give you all kind of obscure SLP tokens.
Some are not obscure.
Some are not as obscure
like the
as the
Honk
other.
token. The refund token.
Well, let me talk about. So there's one thing that I'm very excited about, obviously. So I'm really excited about just crypto in general. I just love that it's going everywhere. One thing, and obviously I'm excited about digital cash because that's what I use, and I'm very excited to be able to use it more, right? All those things. But I didn't really understand the DeFi world too well because I just saw people with all these like weird like food and fantasy animal based exchanges where they're just doing a bunch of weird magic and making a bunch of money and then losing it all and stuff. Like I didn't understand the point of it. But one thing that I am excited about is native cross-chain DeFi, meaning it's like DeFi, DeFi that you can use without like being on one coin's ecosystem. Like you don't put everything on Binance Smart Chain and just flip all their little tokens because like all that stuff is sort of meaningless, now, so that's why I'm a big fan of Thorchain and big user of Thorchain, because basically that lets you anyone swap any coin they support for anyone else, any other coin, with no KYC, no centralization, no nothing. And that's great. Like, do you remember when Shapeshift used to do a great service like that back in the day? And then they had all these like restrictions on them and then all that kind of stuff. But what I like more is that like you can deposit any coin you want, any coin they support, and provide liquidity and just earn something off of that. And that's something that I've been thinking more about as far as like, finance and stuff, is one of the reasons why one of the great things about crypto is people lose so much money on the day-to-day basis just by not putting their money to use. And with DeFi, it's so easy for anyone to start putting their money to use, start getting paid for the opportunity cost of having the money instead of just having it sit there like a damn maximalist. My precious just sits there and does nothing. I have to interrupt really quick. Someone seems to be having a good time over there.
Sorry,
reading some funny comments.
It's
reading the
about
chat,
some
yeah.
tokens, some obscure token.
Continue. I'm
Is it a
listening. I'm listening.
Is it a good token? Yes. So I think that's going to be a big part of the future, and I'm a big fan of Thorchain because anyone can earn money for lending their money out to the platform, I guess, and they don't have to have some weird wrapped token. Like you can just like, for example, I have like a few bucks of like Bitcoin Cash I just threw on there, and I'm making some money on there, and it's pretty cool. Now, there's another project that's on that thing that I have much more mixed feelings on, but I would encourage everyone to do their own research into it as well in case they find something that I'm missing. Something called the Incognito Project, and that's probably it's incognito, so no one knows about it. But it's really very obscure. But basically, it does the same type of a thing that like a Thorchain, for example, does, except it wraps your token in. It's like a privacy DEX, so to speak, because it runs off of ring signatures and things like that, like Monero style privacy. So you can deposit any coin there. It wraps it in that, and then you can trade the wrapped asset, which is all obscure, like no one can see what you're trading for, whatever. And whenever you want to get out the native chain, you can do it. So, for example, you can deposit Dash on there, get P Dash, swap it for P Litecoin, and then withdraw actual Litecoin out on the other end. And so it works. It works. I tried it. You can also provide liquidity and all that. There's some red flags on the project that I'm still working around. Like I don't know if I don't know how much longer the project is going to be solvent, based on a few things like a few of the main developers aren't there anymore. It's a different team, and there's a few other things like that. So I don't personally fully trust it today, but it is a very interesting project to have because of the stuff that it does. And I hope more competitors to that do start cropping up as well.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Joel, I can share a little bit of my info because we are looking for things to talk about.
All right.
Oh, I have a lot.
Yeah, that's
I have
fine.
a lot.
There's always a lot to talk about. I
Okay,
can never
okay.
shut
No,
up.
better that you talk. But I was like, I can fill in some minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we got some people.
By the way,
Asking about this 1 million euro
Yes.
giveaway that I've started today. It is a list of good causes that I'm going to give 1 million euros to, with the requirement that some requirements. It can be found on my website schulden.nl, and I will, of course, make the highlight video and put this on the YouTube channel, and you can see exactly all the details. It was at 11 this morning, about 6 hours ago, that I spoke about that. But it's real. It's real. We're going to give away 1 million euro. It's going to Corona protests in Netherlands.
Yeah. Talking about obscure tokens, Joel has some 15 million moon farts, and he asks you if you want to buy some.
Yeah. Does someone want to buy? Let me
Do a giveaway
let me
from him.
actually let me look up my SLP tokens that I have just to
You
to see the
immediately
best.
know that this is an SLP token.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's
Let me
kind of like the
see.
NFT world, but then on SLP, that's kind of like the NFT world, but without
Yeah, except
fixtures.
without the money.
Yeah. Well, I made a lot
Yes.
of
That's a nice comment.
crypto on. I made a lot of Bitcoin Cash on all these tokens.
So
Yeah.
I have a bunch of like psilocybin, like mushroom based tokens.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I know those.
I have there a lot of these seem to be like cause based because like I have 770 outlaw non-consensual psychiatry tokens. That's interesting. I have 55 stop CCP oppression tokens. And probably my favorite one is I have 24,690 unvaccinated sperm.
Oh, that's for me.
Yes, there we go. Thank you. I always wanted another man to donate his sperm to me.
Also, great comment, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the funniest one was something like, "Please, Naomi Brockwell, don't ignore me." Token.
Oh, there is one. Do I have any of that,
I
or is
don't
that
know.
just
No,
Naomi?
she's the only owner, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I gotta
she
find that.
ignored us also. We invited her, but never got a response.
Ah, she's
I
busy. She's
tried
busy.
Kim.com also, but he didn't reply. So too bad. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Huh?
Yeah, I also
Yeah, maybe.
invited Roger Ver. Well, we actually talked with each other, but he was busy and he wanted to step out of the spotlights.
Yeah. On the day that
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult
Hey.
thing because I really believe that my current Liberland status has something to do with it. So that's just my clown nose
Is it?
talking.
Mhm.
Since
Yeah,
sorry.
Kim is an interesting guy. Kim is an interesting
Yeah.
guy, but I came to find out about him when all his accomplishments were in the past. And so the time that I've known him, I haven't known him to do anything. I've heard him to talk a lot. So I hope he does. He's talking about a lot of cool things. I hope he does them.
Well,
It just,
my question is
I'm
how to
based on my
contact this
personal
guy,
experience so far, I'm
how to come in
skeptical.
contact with him because I tried the official way and it's not working. So how to get in
Mhm.
touch? You know, I would love to hear from him, but yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the problem is
I
that
would like.
those people they have the whole day all these emails with "Hello, sir, how you doing?" and then a lot of emails with "You wanna get into my crypto project?" And I think your email is somewhere in between all this
Yeah, I made
uh,
it into a nice email, you know.
millions.
It was a nice text.
Yeah, but it probably doesn't see it or
I'm
because he
20
gets
miles
so
out of
much mails.
Liberland. That makes it somewhat unique, you know. There is no other
Uh,
streamer doing that, so
hmm
but okay. Next year, Kim.com, we're coming for you. So just so you know.
yeah. Um,
You-
yeah, there's nothing. Okay, but people can still ask questions in the chat if you
Yeah, I
like.
can tell you, Joel, that I am currently in
yes.
the status of being persona non grata of Liberland because of the questions I have
Oh.
asked. And that's basically what are we gonna do with the money questions. Um, so
Huh. That's that's the best question to
right,
have, I
yeah,
think.
especially if it's your money. I am one
Yes.
of the few people in Liberland that actually made money on the project by signing contracts with
Mhm.
the leadership of the project and keeping them to it. Unfortunately, it has caused me to become persona non grata, and well, I really don't care because look, I am Yoshi Livo streaming 20 miles of Liberland, and I don't need anybody's permission to say
Yeah.
that. But now my passport is
Hmm.
going to expire, and I want a new passport, of course. And on top of that, I am being accused of all kind of things that I can prove are not true. But Liberland doesn't have a court yet, so it's very difficult to go to court if there is no court in Liberland. And after a couple of years of
Yeah.
abuse, I think it's time for me to show that all the false accusations are based on political lies and that they don't hold any basis.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's probably going to happen somewhere later this quarter. And that's also a reason why I'm giving away this €1,000,000 because I need to have a little bit of exposure and a little bit of leverage to get away with with my
Hmm.
status there. So
Well, this might be a good, I mean, maybe a lot of listeners know more than me already, but this might be a good opportunity to just talk about the current state of Liberland and maybe even talk about the Free State Project after that.
sure.
But uh, so Liberland, I know the concept. I know a lot about, the founding principles and stuff like that. What I never followed up on really is like the physical country. Are there people still living there? What's going on? Is there a government? Is there a
So
not government? Is there like where are we today? What's the reality on the
the
ground today?
reality on the ground is that the soil itself is in dispute between two nations, which is Croatia and Serbia.
Mm-hmm.
The legal status is that, according to traditional documents, which is called in Dutch traktaat, I really don't know it's different than a cadastral registration.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the border of the country,
Yeah.
and they basically set the outer line of the cadastral registration of a country. So, according to these documents,
Mm-hmm.
Liberland belongs to Serbia. However, Serbia is not
Mm-hmm.
claiming that piece of land today because in former Yugoslavia, Slavia, sorry, they always correct me on that. Former Yugoslavia, they made the borders of the countries when the Danube was still flowing in a different way than it is today. So
Mm-hmm.
parts of Serbia belong to Croatia, parts of Croatia belong to Serbia. Most of the most of the
Interesting.
economic activity happens in the Croatian parts that are on the Serbian side. And that's why,
Mm-hmm.
but this is also the bigger territory of the both sides. It's approximately 10 times more land
Mm-hmm.
from Croatian side, sorry, from Croatia on the Serbian side than the other way around. And that's why both nations claim the Croatian land and both nations do not claim the Serbian land on the Croatian side. And so Liberland is Serbian land on the Croatian side, which Serbia does not claim.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's unclaimed territory and we claim it.
Mm-hmm.
The legal status of the entire project is that Liberland today is nothing but a dream run by a man traveling the world, receiving money from people that believe he will one day build a nation. Unfortunately, after five,
Mm.
6 years of experience, I have the yeah, my experience is a little bit different, and that he is not really building a nation, but he is building his own name, and he just likes to go and
Mm-hmm.
visit places, talk about his ideas, but nothing concrete happens. We had a couple of boats which at some point burned down, which I thought was very peculiar
Mm.
in a very strange moment because it was the moment where the boats needed to be shown to the investors and then they burned down. So for me, it's like the Reichstag of Liberland, where somebody was blamed for a fire that was very convenient.
Interesting.
And so
Mhm.
I started to ask questions about all of that, also because I am here to help this project, but the leadership of
Mm-hmm.
Liberland today prefers to pay his friends instead of letting me do some work. So all that
Mhm.
combined, together with the disability of the leadership to actually organize anything, makes me realize that we cannot leave this project up into the hands of one man, basically. That's how it is. Although he
Yeah.
likes the current
Makes sense.
situation, because if we actually implement a constitution and implement a court, then he would have to play by the rules. and today he can do whatever he wants. So I understand that you are not in favor of living by the rules if today you can be completely lawless and basically use
Of
it
course.
in any way you want. But if we really want to make Liberland happen, then the current situation is completely ridiculous and it needs to, we need to grow out of this phase, and it's just one phase. And, a lot of people that have the same experience as me give up. And this is my biggest issue because it's very difficult for me to find people still willing to fight because their dream has been broken and they say, we can never make it anymore because this guy is not serious. Well,
Well, we have somebody in the chat wants to join you.
what?
And he asked, can we join you in Liberland? And somebody else is asking this question. Even kijken hoor.
Yeah, I am basically answering that.
Isn't this all the... Oh, you read the question. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the question is, isn't this all antithetical to the idea of Liberland? And I say, yes, today we should be very glad to not live in
course.
Liberland because it would be the most unfree nation in the world. The guy who is running it is an absolute tyrant and a dictator and has no community feeling whatsoever. He doesn't care about any of the people that give him power. And can we
He
also
likes
join you there
wine.
in Liberland? Asks Hand Lizard. You can absolutely better. I can tell you even better. In Friday, I just received a message. In Friday, somebody is coming to visit me who wants to make a small video on behalf of Down the Rabbit Hole is a TV show produced by Winter Productions. Down the Rabbit Hole. They have been to El Salvador. They have been to Bitcoin City of Arnhem. They were last week in Keene, New Hampshire, I think, with some Bitcoiner maximalists and libertarians who had some issues with the FBI because of their ideology. So people are visiting this location all the time, and I welcome them with a lot of pleasure. The thing is that not a lot of people know that I'm here because I am completely ignored by the leadership who sees me as a kind of threat to their status.
So as far as the land itself, the actual piece of land, is there anyone currently living or otherwise habitating on that piece of
fisherman,
land?
fisherman.
The Croats keep it there, but the problem is this: if you go to the land today, you are arrested. And because of that, nobody of Liberland can occupy it. So anybody who goes there is arrested. That's basically the status.
And
Croatia.
who arrests it? Which authority does?
Because there is a treaty signed after the war that happened here, the breakup of Yugoslavia, which says that each country has the power to maintain the land on behalf of the other country, maintain the peace, keep justice, something like that. So basically, according to the law, it's Serbia. Croatia is claiming it on behalf of Serbia. Serbia is saying today that it's not them, but it's just a statement from a politician, so it's not signed into law anywhere. The thing is that regardless of the status, those countries, both Serbia and Croatia, are governments with a lot of debt. And things can happen if Liberland has a lot of crypto enthusiasts. There is money in the group, and with things like that, I believe that in the time we live today, if we could ever create a new nation, it's in this time with all the information that we have, with all the technological advantages that we have. So, yeah.
I think with 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 enough money, you just can go to the Croatian and Serbian government and say, "Hey, how much do you want?
First of all, this,
Let me buy this
yes, but
Liberland."
more important than money is the ability to reach out to people and to get support for this ID. And if we end up, you have to understand that Serbia is, as well as Croatia, has completely dried up from young people, basically, because you don't make a lot of money when you work here. So everybody goes to countries like Germany and Netherlands to work there, you know. And so there's not a lot of people living here. If we can get, let's say, 1 million, let's just name a number, 1 million people to come here and say we are Liberlanders and this is our land, then I'm very curious what would happen. You know, if we can get enough people, I believe anything is possible.
But let's solve a mystery when people are continuously asking how many people live on Liberland.
How many Liberlanders are there right now? I can tell you only that there are approximately 200 people with a passport like this, and that there are 2,000. What did I say? 200.
I think it was
200 people.
200.
Yes,
I think it was more. Or there's people that are on the nomination to get one that's higher.
Yeah, we got approximately 1,000 people with money involved in Liberland, and there are 500,000 people that just signed up, you know.
Nice.
So Liberland is more like a virtual country. No, it's not a country at all. It's only a dream today, which aspires to become a country. It's not enough land for 1 million people, says somebody, which is completely true. But I don't think we should all live on the Liberland soil. Actually, for me, the Liberland project is not so much about creating a nation, because I believe any nation is backwards in a way. So creating a new nation is nothing new. It's more of the same. And I would like to create something new. And the thing that I would like to change is that people see that income tax is a form of slavery, because nobody ever signed a contract with their government. Yeah, okay, well, if you take your passport, you sign in the passport and you sign a contract in that way. But nobody has ever really agreed on income tax. And it's if you read most of the tax laws in any nation, if you read it well, then income tax is actually not a legal tax. It's just something that everybody does because it's being told that it has to be done, but there is no real legal basis. Let's see.
It's for sure.
There is a comment about buying the land. Buying the land is not possible, because if you buy the land, it means somebody owned it before you. And if you want to start a new nation, you can only make your own rules if...
there is a building on that island.
No, there is no building.
Yeah, it's a ruin now. It's a ruin from an old building.
There was an old church, but it was destroyed. But you cannot buy the land. So, because if you buy it from somebody, and that means that somebody...
Yeah, but if nobody claims it, you can buy it from the government. That's how it usually works.
Yes, and then you have a piece of land within the government of the government you buy it from. Except...
And then maybe you can declare it a sovereign nation
but
after
then you are not
you're
buying
already
it.
there.
Then you are not buying it. Then you are paying them to release their claim on that territory and to not have a claim on it. But you can never buy it, because then the rules of the country you buy it from apply to it. So we do not buy the land.
Yeah. So this is not a good idea. I should preface this before people start getting ideas. But if they arrest people that go to the territory, what is the largest number of people they've arrested at one time?
I think it was with me, actually, with the largest number of people, but I'm not 100% sure. When we got arrested, we were with 4. And usually it's people going alone.
Okay.
And the thing is that the number of people involved in all of this is very small. And because of how the leadership handles the situation, a lot of people lose interest also. They still like it, but they don't like the guy running it.
Yeah.
So that is actually a big issue. The people don't stay. But that is
Yeah.
completely logical with the current leadership, and I'm more than convinced that it will change over time. And look, I'm just a very stubborn guy, and I believe in things. I have dreams, and I just say that in today's time, everything is possible. We are about to see the biggest change in so many aspects of the entire globe that Liberland will just be a minor thing, minor change.
So imagine this, and this is not, again, a stupid idea. It's not a recommendation. It's just to imagine. Imagine if 200 people decided to go on the physical territory at once. That's a much more difficult amount of people for someone to arrest.
Yeah, it would be
And
a real problem
not,
for Croatia.
yeah. So if you just have 200 people and then they find a way to have enough supplies and things like that to be able to stay there for a while, and then there's new people coming and going, and like, I mean, at some point, obviously at that point there's some kind of a conflict. I'm sure,
Yes.
there would be an incident of sorts, but hopefully a non-violent one, and maybe that forces the issue
Absolutely.
a little bit, and maybe some people who see a few hundred people coming there and taking that risks are inspired, and then everyone or a lot more people join and try to do
If we
something
would
there.
have 200 people and plan it well, because of course, like you said, you need to make sure the supplies are there.
Yes.
I think it would really cause some international conflict, let's say it like that, and the governments are
Yeah.
forced to take a stance, because right now they just let it happen, and they think it's funny, and Serbia has some tourism because of it, and there's some money circulating, and so it's allowed. It's what is the name of that in English, when they it's you know they don't really stop us from doing what we do, because they think it's harmless anyway. So
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, like the tourism and stuff, I'm sure, um, especially as a small landlocked nation, the surrounding countries could benefit from tourism and
absolutely,
infrastructure for people trying to
absolutely.
come in and visit. And there are quite a few, not quite a few, there's enough enclaved nations out there, for example, like Lesotho and things like that, that are completely surrounded by another country, but still manage to operate. And they all seem to, it's funny because a lot of people on the idea of sovereign, like new sovereign nations, seem to say like, oh, well, what would you do if you're all, how would you get infrastructure? Well, they all seem to work it out with the other
Yeah,
country. Be like,
Yeah.
can you just deliver our mail to us? Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Can we? They have a
yeah.
little arrangement so it all works out. I
Yeah.
can't, like, this could be just a new one of those things
Yeah.
and be a benefit to, Serbia
I
and
always say
Croatia.
the chance of
I
Liberland happening is bigger than 1%. And don't just
Hmm.
count it out just yet, because there are so many things happening that look at today's world.
So
To
crazy.
start a new nation just takes a lot of time and persistence, and you need to keep on going. As soon as you stop, it fails. But as long as you keep it going, I believe there is a chance. So
Yeah, I bet if I go to both governments from Croatia and Serbia and tell them I want to buy a new huge casino just like Monaco, and with a big
Hmm.
harbor for all the yachts, then they say, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
because they
Yeah.
know they will get a piece of the pie, because all those yachts have to go to Serbia and Croatia, and
yeah.
all those billionaires don't stay on that island. They just want to drive around, and they want to have the best wines. And who are going making
Hmm.
the wines? The neighboring countries.
We got one more
Yeah.
question. Did you already start a Liberland metaverse? No, I did not, which has to do with the legal status of me. And if I would launch anything Liberland, they would freak out. So I first want to resolve that issue.
Yeah, but the name is not claimed. Anybody can use
I
the
would like to
name.
resolve that issue first. And
Yeah.
something that I am working on is like a small building project nearby Liberland. I want to build a harbor which is needed for the local community also because they don't have enough places to put their boats. So it's something that can be done regardless of Liberland happening or not. So I keep myself busy, and a very big benefit to everything I'm doing is that it is really a beautiful location here, and I am incredibly grateful that I came in contact with this project because I'm from the Netherlands, which I don't know if you've seen what happened yesterday again in the Netherlands, but uh, protest,
Protests.
but police brutality against the protest. There is a complete lockdown currently in the Netherlands. No shops are open. You cannot go to the bars. You cannot go to the cinema. You cannot do anything fun. And I can do that here. So
Supermarkets open here.
the supermarket is open. Yeah, you are allowed
That's
to
not
buy
that fun,
alcohol.
though.
You can drink a lot of alcohol.
Yeah. The alcohol liquor stores are open, but schools are closed, and the clothing stores are also non-essential.
Joel, how do you see the global? Do you call it a pandemic or a plandemic? I think that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it's kind of neither. Like, because I don't think, maybe I'm not educated enough. I don't think all this was necessarily planned as it was opportunistic. As in, once it happened, everyone was out. Governments around the world just saw they could take power and took it. Now, I think it's very interesting. This is a great turning point in humanity for sure. And maybe I'm a relentless optimist, but I've seen, so from my vantage point in safe little New Hampshire here, safe free New Hampshire, where people do whatever they want and there's, no restrictions and everything's great. I've seen a massive, there's in the US is a very interesting experiment because of the state-based system that allows different jurisdictions to have very different worlds, and because of the modern technological world where information travels so freely, everyone knows what's going on and everyone can kind of work from home. Not everyone, but a lot of people can. It's easy. It's much easier to move, and people are moving. I believe 500,000 people or more have left California in the last couple years.
We just
and
showed
the
the
same
graph.
thing.
Wait, I'll put it up for you. I'll share it.
Yeah, put
Copy image. I will put it also in the chat again. We just spoke about this with Twan. I will share it with you in the Skype chat. You might be interested in it.
yes. I'm pretty sure, I've seen the migration chats, but yes, what's interesting about this? So look up on the net gainers there. New Hampshire has gained 13,000 or so people, right? And New Hampshire has 1.3 million, so that's like a 1% gain. I've heard it's very hard to get to trust the reliability of this data point, but I have heard from people running the official Free State Project channels that there were over 1,000 people who moved to New Hampshire for the Free State in the last year. So 1 in 13 new immigrants to New Hampshire could be Free Staters. Again, I don't know how much I'm going to trust that number, but it's been out there. So that's something that's pretty nice to see. And I've seen that the House Majority Leader is a Free Stater. The governor of New Hampshire co-authored a op-ed with the founder of the Free State Project. Like, it's getting to be pretty serious, and I think a lot of that we owe to the last couple of years' insanity, where a lot of people, they're just like, oh, that's cool you're doing that. Isn't it kind of cold? I don't know. Like, all those have been turned into, dude, I got to get up there. Like, it sucks where I'm at. And so, also on a slightly less, free angle, but still very positive, Texas and Florida have gained millions of inhabitants over the last couple of years because they have at long last decided to reverse the lockdown policies and embrace just people being there. And so I think we're starting to see, first off, we're creating two different worlds in the entire world. And for example, there's people of like a left or more left-leaning political persuasion in different states who just their idea of what the world is doing these days is very different from my reality. We just don't live in the same planet. And I think that that's ultimately a good thing because I didn't want to share a planet with them to begin with. And now that we have two different worlds, we have an awesome one and a shitty one, and I get to stay in the awesome one. And so it's not good for a lot of people in the world, that's for sure. But the fact that there's a split in the worlds is very encouraging. I mean, how many Australians do you think are happy with their situation there? And how many of those people have some sort of access to information that there's another world out there where people are living a very different way? How long are they going to put up with that? That doesn't mean that Australia is necessarily going to turn into something good, but maybe a lot of Australians are going to leave for someplace good. And the same goes with the rest of Europe. Have you noticed? So this is I have not paid much attention into this situation on the ground in a lot of parts of Europe. I hear from friends that at least Sweden, but also a few other Scandinavian countries are much less restricted right now. Is that true?
Well, yes, there is a big difference between every nation. I personally live in Serbia, where the government is quite small. There is not so much police force. There are COVID restrictions, but nobody keeps them. That's basically how it goes. And for example, they made it mandatory to show your QR code after 8 o'clock in the evening, which means that from now on, every shop is basically closed at 8 o'clock because they are not willing to scan for the QR code.
So, what is the ability for my understanding from it's been a long time since I lived in Europe, but my understanding is that it's relatively easy for people within the Eurozone to simply move and live in another
No,
country and
that's
find work.
that's
And is
that's
that
a
still
little
the
bit
case?
gone with COVID because you need to
Oh. Mm.
well, if you don't have a vaccine, then you need to have a PCR test basically every 24 hours proving that you are not contaminated. If you do have it, then a lot of these places today have all kind of movement restrictions that you are not really allowed to freely travel. And they ask you, is this an essential travel? Are you going to a doctor? No, I'm having a vacation. No, you cannot have it. Where are you staying? Everything is closed. So the freedom of movement has been greatly reduced. I don't know, Johan, is that correct what I'm saying? Because I sold my car 2 months before the pandemic started, and I haven't left town since. I'm just
Well, to be
extremely.
honest, yeah, I know the politicians are saying a lot of this bull crap, but I have a pretty good time. I'm not vaccinated. I have no QR code, but I can still do a lot of things. Yeah, you have to sit in a restaurant, but I don't often. Yeah, I know the places where they don't ask you for the QR code.
Yeah.
And but I can still travel within the Netherlands, and I know I went to Germany when it was totally locked down. Well, we could easily cross the border. Same with Belgium. And yeah, and I know from people that drove all around Europe, and they because they have these rules, but they have not enough manpower to enforce it. So yeah, if they catch you, yeah, then you're fucked. But they have not enough people to fuck everybody.
So
Yeah,
I guess are there locations, are there countries such as perhaps Sweden, but again I haven't done my research, that are relatively unrestricted and at the same time are open for relatively easy immigration for people who want to live a freer life?
yeah.
Is that still possible?
We're now in a project called yeah, you can call it Free State Europe, Free State Project Europe, but it has a different name. And we're trying to you have in Spain and also other countries, you have a lot of villages that are empty. The last inhabitants, they moved out or they died. and we tried to buy just the whole village and live there together. And and in Spain you have the possibility to vote your own mayor and your own policeman. So and they have a constitutional court, but I have to say that didn't work out for Catalonia. Yeah, but
Of course.
but on the other hand, they a lot of the COVID hoe noem je dat, boetes, fines, they went in the garbage bin because of the constitutional court. Dus, so sometimes it works, and yeah, it is I think a lot of and on the other hand, I have to say the countries are as free as you want it, because you can always try to avoid the policeman, if you know what I mean, or avoid all this bullshit.
Yes.
If you're smart
My
enough.
family's from Mexico. I'm very aware of bribing.
Yeah. And the south of Europe,
That's a different
south and the east of
thing
Europe,
as well.
it's very easy to. It's almost you have to bribe them. They expect you to bribe them.
Yeah. Which that's probably makes a lot of things easier, because that's one thing that at a very higher level, anyone with a rudimentary understanding of how the world works realizes that there's a lot of things you can do as a richer person that you cannot as a poorer person, even in some of the most supposedly egalitarian societies. And it's a little more stark under the bribery system. It's a little more like you pay, you get your thing. Whereas in other systems, it's like, well, do you have proper legal representation? How about this? Do you, do you know the connections here? Do you have all the permits for that? Do you have an investment in this? And it's many more steps than just paying the guy, but it equates to the same thing.
Oh, it's also somebody's telling. I think you know this better than he does. There are still CFIT restrictions in New Hampshire. Oh, COVID. Oh, you wrote it wrong. Yeah, COVID restrictions in New Hampshire. If you wanna go skiing, there is a mask mandate and social distancing, for example. Is that true?
Well, I don't ski, so I wouldn't specifically know. I know on the statewide there are none, right? This on the state level, as far as the government's concerned, there are none. There are, I believe, the public transportation system, which no one uses. It's just a small bus system. I believe they're asking you to do that, but again, that's a specific government office for a very specific thing, and I don't. It's kind of strange. There is one town, I believe, that is bordered with Massachusetts where they voted a mask mandate recently that I don't think will hold up in court. Like, I don't think they have the authority to do that in the system. But other than that, it's pretty much nothing. As far as like the ski slopes, it depends on who owns them. It could just be a private business decision that they decided to do. But there are occasional private businesses that do decide they want to do stuff. But pretty much everywhere, if you were to take the average human being from 2019 and put them in 2022 New Hampshire, and they have no idea what COVID is or anything, depending on where you are, they might not notice a single difference. Like in my town here, everything is very normal, but then towards the end, towards this season, where I guess numbers are high. I don't even pay attention to that stuff because it doesn't affect me. But you might see a few more people wearing masks. Someone would be, hey, why is everyone wearing those things? Did everyone get like cold or something? Like you'd have to, and it's not even the majority. It's still the minority. Yeah. So it's very like life is pretty much all completely unrestricted here. It really depends on where you go. I'm sure there's some more left-leaning towns where more of the businesses are just like, can you please put a mask on or whatever. But other than that, it's very good. Now, of course, if you go right across the border to Vermont or to Maine or even worse to Massachusetts, it's a different world a little bit. I believe the mayor of Boston implemented a vaccine passport mandate for inside restaurants and things like that. And it's not the rest of the state as far as I know, but it's still, yeah. So this very small area of, or not very small, but, relatively small, that is still nice and safe and fun. And I don't see the U.S. at least moving back towards that direction. I think that even in places like California, they're very afraid to do a full lockdown again because of how unpopular the last one was and how they actually lost representation in the federal government because so many people left the state.
Yeah. Somebody asking, oh, he has a nice name. State enemy. Enemy of the state. That's his nickname in Dutch. Can you have concerts or sport events with thousands of people in Texas?
I'm not sure if you can in Texas. I definitely know you can in Florida. I'm not a big fan of most large sports, but I do watch MMA in the UFC, for example. I do know that they hold events in Florida frequently. I believe they had one in Texas recently. And so if they were able to hold events there, that means the answer is probably yes. I just pay attention to where they do that.
And there is a question for Yoshi. Is there climate change in Liberland?
Well, I think that is a good question to answer with the next guest, Johan. What about that?
Is he coming?
Yeah,
or,
we are waiting. I am in contact now, and Aaron Edwards
okay, because
of the Float app, the float.app, is ready.
Oh,
so
I have to make my pizza ready, but I'll be back in a second. And then,
well, if you wait a little bit, because we got a 9-minute video for you to make a pizza, and then we can say goodbye to Joel. Thanks for staying 1 hour more, Joel.
Yeah, thanks.
Great job.
Oh, no problem.
We will do. Let's do one more raffle wheel with Joel present, and then.
Oh, at this moment, yeah.
And then we.
Okay. Here we are. Okay, I'm closing this thing, and I pick a winner. The winner is Suf. Hey, again,
third
time.
Congratulations, Suf. Let's spin the wheel, see what you have won.
He was luckier than the 15 other ones.
2x multiplier for Suf. Currently on 4.8. 2 times 0.2 makes 0.4. Total of 5.2 EFLs. 5.2 EFL. Congratulations to the winner. Johan, did you already start a new one?
Yeah, I started it. Yeah.
Exclamation mark.
Okay, people.
Raffle to participate in a new raffle.
Yeah. And in the next video, there's QR codes where you can pay with all kinds of crypto. Dash is also included. And there are also the addresses in below the video, and there you can pick out your favorite ones.
All the proceeds of our crowdfunding campaign will go to Virus Truth, a anti-corona movement in the Netherlands. So thanks all for participating with that, and thank you, Joel, for being with us today. Let's just book you already for next year, 14 years of Bitcoin next year. What about...
maybe in between also.
Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
It's always good to have you on. Interesting stuff that you shared with us. A lot of practical knowledge, a lot of experience that shared it. So...
And a lot of talk about civil disobedience movements and getting arrested, of course, too, which is always fun.
Yeah.
All right, Joel.
True.
Thanks. And have a great year. I wish you the best. All right.
You too. Have a great one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was Joel.
I'm going to make my pizza.
And we are now going to watch the video of the crowdfunding. So 9 minutes, and we will be back with the next guest. Keep it up. Johan is going to make a pizza. He really wants to tell you that. Johan is going to make a pizza. Did you know that? Because Johan is going to make a pizza.
I thought you already started
a Bitcoin
the video.
Pizza. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I will take off now, but thanks very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.